Welcome, and thank you for joining us today at this special time for this academic year's first episode of St. Ben's at Home. My name is Marcia Malum, and I'm the Director of Alumni Relations and a St. Ben's alumna from the class of 1996. I'd like to begin our time together today by sharing our land acknowledgement. Both the College of Saint Benedict and St. John's University occupy the original homelands of the Dakota and Anishinaabe peoples. We honor, respect, and acknowledge the Indigenous peoples forcibly removed from this territory, whose connection remains today. St. Benedict's Monastery and St. John's Abbey previously operated boarding schools for Native children. Now students, faculty, and staff are working to repair relationships with our Native Nation neighbors. Thank you. Towards the end of today's episode, there will be time for questions. So if you have anything that you would like to ask Brian, please click the Ask a Question button, which is at the bottom of your screen, to submit your question. Please note that you may need to exit out of the full screen view to use the Ask a Question button. Today's session is being recorded and will be posted on our Alum Learning Consortium's past event recordings page in the next 1 to 2 business days. Now please welcome our moderator, Heather Piper Olson, Vice President of Institutional Advancement.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for St. Ben's at Home. We're going all the way back to our roots. When we started this in lockdown, once upon a time, but we're just delighted to have you all here with us virtually. And I'm so glad that you've taken an hour out of your lives to join us for another wonderful topic and conversation. Hopefully you're enjoying some lunch or a lovely break from your day in what we hope will be an inspiring conversation. Today, I'm delighted to welcome back to St. Ben's at Home, President Brian Bruess. Welcome, Brian. How are you today?
Hi, Heather, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's great to join the at-home crowd again.
Fantastic. So good to have you here. So we're going to start off with an easy topic. I think one of the things that every single higher ed administrator gets asked these days is, how's enrollment?
That's a great question, Heather, and I'm really happy to be sharing some both challenges and very exciting news with our listeners and viewers. Just big picture, like Minnesota private colleges and universities across the state, we saw a nice increase in domestic enrollment, which of course gives us confidence in our strategy as we're working hard to regain some market share in Minnesota. But like schools across the country, the federal administrative policy around visas has resulted in significant losses to our international student enrollment. And so we're really navigating that challenge as best we can, but feeling a clear direct relationship between the administration's policy to have about aiming for half the number of visas approvals in the course of this past year, and that has had a big impact. We had competitive, similar, in fact, for some period of time, more applications from international students. But if you can't get the visas approved, you're not going to get the students here. And so that has had a couple significant impacts on us, not just on international students, but as flagship universities that were anticipating 20 to 40% losses, declines in international recruitment. As they faced that reality this summer, they went to their wait lists. And so we lost a number of late summer deposits. We call them summer melts. Right. And so we've been able to navigate that. We have a really healthy first year class. Of course, demographics have been a challenge along with the downward pressure in state and federal aid, but we're thrilled with our new students. Just about 700 new students in the undergraduate program, and of course our graduate program in nursing at St. Ben's and our School of Theology are both really healthy. I will say, Heather, these new students, we just started up classes from fall break, and there's no question that these new students are post-COVID college students coming to us engaged, free from any COVID experience in high school, and they are every year you can tell in the first 24, 48 hours what's the personality of this class. Well, these new students at both St. Ben's and St. John's, I find them to be super eager to be at St. Ben's, St. John's, polite, and it looks like another show-up class, a group of students that are highly engaged on both the curricular and co-curricular front. So it's exciting to see that big group of new students roll into our two campuses and just immerse themselves fully.
Thanks so much, Brian. I can attest they really are a fantastic class. And just for a little bit of kind of follow up to the comment about immigration, we continue to have students a long history with the Bahamas, and I think just to kind of remind our viewers, and hopefully we've got some folks in the Bahamas watching as well. So that continues to be where most of our students are coming from, correct? Internationally, correct?
Yeah, folks know that we've graduated over 1,600 Bahamians over the course of St. Ben's and St. John's history. So we have this wonderful pipeline of a great tradition of Bahamians, both at St. Ben's, St. John's. Even that flow of international students was smaller than typical. Mm-hmm. And so even those really healthy, long-standing relationships have seen challenges this past enrollment cycle, but we sure are blessed to have our Bahamians among us.
Fantastic. So is there anything unique or special about this class of 2029 that has joined us this year?
Well, first of all, let's just remind ourselves that they were born in 2006.
I mean, every time someone says that out loud, I am stunned. Even though I myself have a senior in high school and know when she was born, it just seems impossible that what you just said is true.
Yeah, it is true. So we have to remind ourselves of that. And in that regard, one thing that strikes me, Heather, is that the students that I'm interacting with seem really engaged and fully immersed in the experience. They're bringing an interest in outside speakers, they're in student government, they're athletes. I'm just amazed at how prepared they are to immerse themselves in the college experience. And they brought, every year there's a vibrancy that comes to campus with new students. These two groups of new students just seem to be at another level. So I think their show up and their engagement and their eagerness is what's defining them right now.
Absolutely. And I think that there's one of the things that the advantages, I think, of any student that's gone through the pandemic, which will be the bulk of who we will see for the next decade plus, especially with this group, they were old enough to have gone through it and know what they want and don't want from their academic experience. And students choose us very much, I think, because they want to be in relationship with one another. So I continue to be really heartened actually by the way our students want to be in relationship with one another, and they're drawn to what we offer here and what we've learned from the Benedictines about being in community.
Yeah, you can see that. I think you're spot on with your description of this class, Heather. They're really gathering in small groups. They're active. They're interpersonally interested in each other. We hosted the St. Ben St. John's Senates at our house a few weeks back for dinner Friday night before they went into their weekend-long retreat. And it seemed as if the new and continuing students had already built these great bonds. And so I think this generation is thirsty for interpersonal connectedness, being in community, building something together. They're eager for a more peaceful world. They're super excited about the environment and being a part of a healthy environment. They're really, now we hear a lot about the epidemic of isolation and loneliness. And so we pay attention to that. And at the same time, we see the excitement and energy and the thirst that students have for the kind of community that we offer at St. Ben's and St. John's.
That's so true. So, though there's some signs that there's some kind of upward trending, at least with our domestic students, it's clear that the enrollment challenges that we're facing are not going to go away anytime soon, and that they will continue to be those challenges that we face here at St. Ben's and St. John's. So in fact, one of our strategic initiatives is to create a sustainable and diversified strategic enrollment plan. We spent the last 18 plus months, it's actually probably closer to 22 at this point, conducting research and building that plan. And now we're getting very close to rolling it out. Can you talk about the True North journey?
Oh, happy to. In fact, this is the 35th fall that I've been a part of opening a college campus. Heather, it's impossible. I started very young, right?
Very young.
But it's been my entire career in Catholic higher ed that I've imagined the day when we could have a strategy that is so significant as the True North journey is for us. This is a strategy that comes out of research. We can talk about that in a little bit. But it impacts our ability to recruit students. It impacts how we structure and how we present the St. Ben, St. John student experience. And it absolutely contributes to the outcomes. And it engages engages alums in the St. Ben, St. John's experience as early as when a student is deposited. And this strategy impacts the entire curricular, co-curricular experience. It has everything to do with our enrollment strategy. So the True North Journey, which is a 4-year integrated program for all Bennies and Johnnies, the True North framework offers a way of packaging, so to speak, the student experience in a way that really helps us amplify the student's experience and helps position them for tomorrow's workforce. And it's to me, it's really a dream project. It's, if you can imagine, it's scaffolded across the 4 years. Mm-hmm. So we're more partially curating the 4-year experience, including academic advising, career development, mentorship. These three themes are intentionally aligned. Building momentum for a student throughout her 4 years post-college. It's integrated across all learning environments, and it's built around a student's sense of purpose. And it's focused on outcomes, life skills, real world experience, and being career ready. And it's intended to help students map a path with clarity and confidence. And of course, my favorite thing about it is that it's built on our foundational values, really delivered through this sense of community, of intense belonging, and which of course we're so well known for, but allows us to capitalize on this great asset of our education. And so to know that the research that we've done reminds us that these Benedictine values are timeless is really quite inspiring. So yes, it's a full-on faculty, staff, curricular, co-curricular, all the way from prospective student recruitment right on through to graduation. And alums will be happy to hear that it includes a fully articulated framework for how we engage alums more purposefully and more explicitly and completely across the 4-year experience.
Yeah, we worked with a renowned firm from art and science. Can you please briefly kind of explain what they researched and then sort of what they told us that led to this 4-year scaffolded experience? Yeah,
so the baseline of any good higher ed strategy is grounding it in evidence, and in this case, a significant research project that had us taking a group of prospective students at St. Ben and St. John's, and throughout the entire enrollment cycle, from inquiry through application and deposit process, we were surveying them on a number of ways of which we present ourselves, how we present the curricular and co-curricular experience. And our goal was to test some different ideas of how we present this thing we call St. Ben, St. John's educational experience, and to help discern what are the ways in which we talk about ourselves and tell our story and present to the world what it means to be a Benny and Johnny and what that experience looks like. And the research was targeted toward understanding what are the kinds of ways of describing this experience that help students say yes to apply, yes to deposit, and yes to enroll. So this whole project was pre-enrollment decision-making by students. And so we looked at them at the inquiry, the application, the deposit stage. And so many things that we were taught from this research that we're now parlaying into the strategy. And that had to do with the fact that today's students really want to make sure that they're career ready, that they're ready for the workforce of tomorrow. And so this allowed us to also recognize that our values, our Benedictine values, are really profoundly relevant and timeless in the eyes of students. It also taught us that we have to be less dependent on our monikers as we're talking about our values. And so really getting down into what I call the attribute language and the emotional appeal language tells story to help students, prospective students, understand what's it like to be at St. Ben St. John's. Because when students visit, our yield goes up. And when students get to campus, the affinity, I call it the affinity factor, just goes through the roof. And so it's on that basis that we're really reframing how we talk about St. Ben St. John's experience and how we focus on outcomes. It's allowing us to liberate, I think, in some ways, our educational philosophy. This program is built on a student's sense of purpose, and it gives them agency in defining that. It leverages our values, Benedictine Catholic Liberal Arts College values. It allows us to really lean into high impact practices like collaborative research, internships, experiential learning, study abroad, mentoring. It's curricular, co-curricular. And the other piece that we learned from the research is that our greatest and most enduring asset, our outcome that we're most proud of, our graduates, engaging alums in the process of recruitment all the way through is really a great asset and one that we need to leverage more fully. It's also true, Heather, that the research was clear that families want a team to support their students through the process. So we've got this, part of this program includes the True North team. And this includes career navigators, academic navigators, and network navigators. And alums, when we say network navigators, that includes you. And so we're super excited to roll this out for our, not only our alums, but for-profit, not-for-profit, business, healthcare institutions that want to engage with St. Ben St. John's. So this research is really quite exciting. It's affirmational, but it's also challenging because it's asking us, demanding of us in a sense, to be more sophisticated and to be more intentional about how we tell the story, how we engage our most precious asset and outcome, our alums.
What I think is so important about this work and sort of what you've talked about is it's forcing us to articulate to those who may not know us well, why bother, why get to know us, why we might be the right place for them, and or their child or other people in their life. And I think I had a former colleague who always said that people speak with interesting specificity about the things they don't like, but kind of vague generalities about the things they do. They love us. We care about the same, the Benny Johnny network. We talk about those things. But yet when you ask, like, what specifically, it does tend to be that you talk about a lifetime of experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can be hard to wrap around, or people aren't willing to say, or they don't have the words. What we want to help is give our prospective families, our prospective students, and our alums some specificity about what it is, what community looks like for us, what's sort of guaranteed. And then you also get the benefit of all of the other things that come from a place that's highly relational, where your ambitions are really a focus and where we're grounded in those values. And so I think for me, what I've really found compelling is it's both an opportunity for us to get some clarity, some interesting specificity about something we love, but also then allows sort of all of those other things to flourish and be a part of it. And I think there's just a lot there. And I'm so excited as we continue to share more with our alums and get them engaged. So stay tuned. There's a lot more to come there.
Yeah, and it's exciting because this framework of a program, the True North Journey, is helping us tell our story, of course, but it's also to show prospective students. And so one of the genius of this is giving us a real explicit set of language, of metaphor, of imagery to help tell sophomores, juniors, seniors in high school our story in ways that are accessible to them and also authentic and true to who we are.
Yeah. And what I love is sort of, you've talked over time. I mean, since you've gotten here, Mary Hinton had this conversation. I think, Michael, we talked about this a lot, about the value of the liberal arts and sort of a modern version of the liberal arts. And that's, I think, one of the things I really love about what we're trying to do here, is this piece about helping our students articulate what it is that they value, who they are, practicing that. Right? This requires practice. I think what I've noticed is the further out you are from St. Ben's, the better you're able to articulate the value of this education, the women who've supported you through your hardest times, through transitions, the lessons that you learn. But some of that comes not just from time, but from practice, right? And what we're really going to try to do with True North Journey is accelerate that. Is intentionally accelerate the opportunities that repeat this idea of our students saying out loud, this is who I am. This is what I value. This is what I learned in my 4 years. And this is what I bring to the table in my job, in my relationships, in my community. And that, I think, is a really profound promise that we're making to our students, that when they leave here, they will have that ability. And I think that's a big part of this True North promise.
Yeah, that's really well said, Heather. And we also have to remind ourselves that we're working from a position of strength.
Yeah.
So our strategic plan has one item in it that is challenging us to make this robust experience that so many Benedicts and Johnnies have equitable to all students.
Everyone.
So this program helps to more partially curate the experience and to help present to the world so students can get here, but also it's about, navigating students through it. And so we have, as close to 100% participation in the fullness of what we do as possible. So it's quite exciting, and I can't wait to get it built. It'll take us 4 years to build it and get it fully implemented, because it builds from 1 year to the next. But the faculty and staff are doing all the hard work. And if I had any kind of takeaways to give to our listeners, our viewers, I'd just say, get ready for even more engagement. Maybe your mentor, offer an internship, hire our graduates, help us recruit our students, unlimited number of ways to help students flourish. And so, we're counting on you. We always have, as our greatest outcomes and our most enduring asset, our graduates. We built this in part for you. And so we're looking forward to unleashing even more of our Benny Johnny network.
So that's a fabulous segue into our next topic. So one of the amazing things I think about the True North Journey and the St. Ben's, St. John's experience is that it doesn't end with commencement. It's a lifelong relationship, whether you like it or not. So the love and the care and the relationship that St. Ben's and St. John's has with its graduates carries over to the rest of their lives. Just today, we've launched 1220, a new career services platform exclusively for St. Ben's and St. John's alums. What can you tell us about that?
Well, 1220 is actually an inspiration by our institutional advancement teams to engage alums, and the timing of it could not be better in terms of what we're doing with the True North Journey. And it's just think of it like a welcoming platform, a coordinating platform, a kind of a connecting platform for students, for alums, for employers, to help connect students with experiential learning opportunities, to connect alums with post-graduation career support, to connect employers with job posting and connecting with students. It's really a catalyst, as it were, for how we connect and how we engage. And it's a huge asset for alums and for students and for the community. And it fits right in with our strategy of connecting students with alums and with the community. So it's a fantastic new piece of the infrastructure that will help us engage and make a big difference on making these connections with the workforce.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had an online directory. It's been a while since we've had the Kane files. For those of you who remember those, like, no one's pulling a book down and looking through a binder anymore. And we know there's all kinds of ways that folks can connect on LinkedIn or other places. But what we're really promising, again, is we're going to be in your life for for the whole your whole life, the entirety of that time frame. But this is the opportunity for us to help our alums connect with one another. We know that folks want to help, and we do hear this quite a bit. Like, I'm an expert in this field and no one's ever reached out to me. It might be the case that we don't know that. That this relationship is mutually beneficial. We hope that we're offering something to our alums in that lifelong relationship. And here is just one of the ways that we hope to continue to bolster that over time as well. So, how should alums get connected to 1220 if they aren't already?
Well, when does that enrollment process happen, Heather? It's happening right now, isn't it?
It's happening now. Absolutely. So you should receive an email. You should have received an email at whatever your preferred email that you have with us online. If you did not receive an email, check your junk mail. That's always a place they could be. The other thing is you can always reach out to us, CSB alumni at csbsju.com and get and request access to it. It does require you to log in. We want you to log in, and then we would encourage you to share your current job title, what you're interested in, so that others can find you, and that it'll give you an opportunity to find out whoever else is in there as well. So I know we've sent a mailer out. You should be getting that in the mail as well. But if you have any questions, Marcia can continue to give you more information after the fact. But we encourage you to find us. We will find you, and we'll continue to have this conversation with you throughout. And for those of you who are interested potentially in getting more involved with True North Journey 2, 1220 is going to be a big part of that process as well.
My favorite part, Heather, about 1220 is creating a space that we can curate the stories of our alums. One of our underlying principles for telling our story going forward is using our alum stories and the ways in which they have been impacted by St. Ben, St. John's. Our alums use the language of home and family to describe their experience. And so one of my hopes is that we can do a better job extracting those stories, and 1220 will help us with that. Will also help us create more of a lifelong connection. This Benny for life imagery, Johnny for life imagery, help us animate that even more.
Absolutely. So if you're listening to this either live or after the fact, please log in, and then tell others to do so as well. The power of this network is only as strong as the active engagement of everyone who's a part of it too. So we want to hear your feedback. So please do let us know as we roll this out. So we're going to shift a little bit into kind of the state of higher ed. We've talked a little bit about the federal government, but let's talk more broadly, locally, state, and at the federal level. So we are, we're hoping there's lots of things locally. Let's start the closest. There's lots of things happening locally right now. St. Ben's has been very active in establishing health services at the Salem Community Outpost. What can you tell us about this effort, and how did it come about, and what's our role?
Well, there is a lot of disruption and chaos in the higher ed context right now, Heather. And I think at times folks can lose sight of some of the incredible stuff that's actually happening on the ground. This is an unbelievable collaboration. And I don't need to be telling you this, Heather, because you were at the center of it as well. But this is a combination. There's a partnership between St. Cloud Police, Central Care, and St. Ben, St. John's, offering clinic on the St. Cloud's East Side. So undergraduate and graduate nursing students will be getting hands-on clinical work as a part of this new outpost. And it's really quite amazing. It's housed at the Salem Lutheran Church building. And it's really about meeting the community on their terms and bringing much needed healthcare to the community. I just have to say, it's just been amazing to watch. And our nursing faculty, and Heather, you had a big role in this as well, but Central Care, our partner, and St. Cloud Police. And of course, all this is happening on the shoulders of the Sisters of the Order of Saint Benedict, whose wisdom and courage had the belief that St. Cloud needed a hospital. And it's that kind of a history that we're really standing on the sister's shoulder in this moment in time, delivering on what was their vision for healthcare in central Minnesota. And to me, it's a perfect example of, I've said for years about St. Ben, St. John's that we are of, with, and for the community. And this is truly that kind of a impact where our students and our faculty are in partnership with Centricare and St. Cloud Police to provide this. It's just an incredible experience for our students and faculty, but really impactful for the community.
Yeah, it really is a moment. And I don't know how it happened that I got so involved, but it's really been a privilege and an honor to be involved in that work and watch such innovative partners truly meet the need. So the Public Safety Foundation has three. This is the third, but had a community outpost on the south side. Specifically, the focus there was on youth programming, and just having a presence, a really community policing presence. But what they've done is really that idea of every single outpost needed what was right for that particular part of the community. And this location on the east side has the worst health outcomes in all of central Minnesota. And when they asked the community what they wanted and needed, they said, we need healthcare, along with a whole list of things that would be very clearly in the social determinants of health. We are hoping on our next episode that we will be able to talk more in depth about that with our nursing faculty, along with all things that are going on in with our undergraduate and graduate nursing programs. So stay tuned, more information to come there. But it is just one example, I think, of the kind of approach that I think we're taking in the strategic plan, really looking at sort of our role in the local community. So what else, to that end, what else have you been working on locally in central Minnesota?
Well, been blessed to be a part of the Greater St. Cloud Development Corporation. And to me, that's a place where both you, Heather, and I are part of that group. And it's so important to be in conversation and relationship with other business and organizations as we keep positioning Greater St. Cloud area to be more attractive for businesses, for organizations. And that in turn gives us opportunity to connect St. Ben, St. John's with them. Also as a appointee by the governor to the governor's Workforce Development Board. That's another really interesting experience that's even bigger than central Minnesota, of course. And the governor's Workforce Development Board is at an interesting crossroads right now, working hard to deliver on his vision for connecting the workforce development efforts around the state to a more unified approach. Again, making wonderful connections with business leaders, for-profit, not-for-profit around Minnesota. All of this is a part of St. Ben, St. John's being in the conversation and bringing our mission-based institutional focus and purposes to the betterment of the broader community. So I wish I could spend more time, but I feel like I'm spending a lot of time. But you see the kind of outcomes that we can produce and the kind of shared collective work to bring our experience to the broader community. I think there's big opportunity for us as we go forward in this space.
I think when we talk about this particular part of the work that we're doing, I think a lot about we talk about the demographics, right? We started this whole thing off with enrollment, which we know a lot of those enrollment pressure are coming from demography. And I think in this space, this is one of those where what I've noticed about the approach you've brought and the work that we've kind of institutionally been doing is really thinking about sort of how we can holistically approach some of this, right? Like the state of Minnesota isn't necessarily getting more people. And if it is, it's with the kind of intentionality. What is it that's going to take for us to not only meet our own enrollment goals, but then also workforce needs going forward? And so I really appreciate the approach that you've taken in this. Can you talk a little bit about the Minnesota Private College Council and some of that work there as well, especially as concerns these issues of brain drain and some of those other pressures?
Yeah, the MPCC, Minnesota Private College Council, is 17 private colleges that very diverse type of schools, but together a really powerful asset for Minnesota. We are the third, as a state, the third highest four-year graduation rate in the country for all students. And we're the second highest four-year graduation rate for low-income students. And so we're on the national scene for making a big difference for the state of Minnesota. It's also true that the private colleges as a group are importers of talent. And so MPCC is helping us to make the case at both the state and federal level to understand the importance and the power of independent higher education, in that we're bringing students into the state of Minnesota, net importers of talent. And we believe that we know that we're producing outcomes that are right at the top of the country's best outcomes. And so part of being involved in these various groups, Heather, is about telling that story, advocating for a state's investment in the Minnesota State Grant for all students, making sure that the federal level, that we're bringing awareness to the importance of the Pell Grant and trying to get us talking about a policy, the Pell Grant, that for over 50 years has garnered and enjoyed over 90% bipartisan support. We have to carry these messages in the face of all this disruption that's happening. And so we're focusing on those things that we think make a big difference for St. Ben, St. John's, but also that advance the interest of the state, economic development, workforce development, and most importantly, we want to be a message to the world that you don't have to choose between the good life and the common good. We believe, as a Catholic, Benedictine, liberal arts institutions, that it's a false dichotomous choice. We expect students to have a successful career, but we also expect them to understand what the common good is, what the dignity of the human person means, and to act in those purposes for a greater good. This is not a choice you have to make. You can do both. And part of that is reclaiming the narrative and humanizing higher education for what it is, a great public good that we need to invest in at the state and federal level. So being engaged in the community groups as we are helps us to achieve that goal and a real pragmatic level. It also allows us to bring our faculty and students out into the community with engaged pedagogy, solving the wicked problems of the world, and putting in students' experience real world experiences. And it's that kind of a principle-based approach to our educational enterprise and positioning St. Ben, St. John's that is going to continue to feed interest and produce even better outcomes.
So there's so much in the narrative about higher education. There's so many of these challenges. There's this, you talked about talking to state legislators and federal legislators as well. So can you share with us a little bit about how higher education leaders are working together in this moment at all levels?
Yeah, that's a great question, Heather. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that in the last 15 years, 10 years in particular, I've seen a pivot, and driven in part by COVID, when college presidents had no playbook for COVID. And I think right now the current federal administration, there's no real playbook for that either. So what I've observed in the last couple of years, and most intensely in the last 10 months, is that college presidents are much more open to engaging with each other on the challenges that they're facing day to day, week to week, month to month. They're really finding energy and momentum around focusing on our purposes, our core mission. And for us, it's Catholic, Benedictine, liberal arts institutions that are built on offering to women empowering principled education, and for men, healthy masculinity to help them achieve their goals as well. So really, I'm seeing right now just a coalescing with very diverse institutions around the purpose of higher education, and leaning into what academic freedom means, leaning into what a principles-based education means, and talking in shared common language about our role in economic development, our role with improving communities. And that's a powerful thing. It's not easy on some level being college president these days, but I can tell you what, what I'm learning with my colleagues is that there's never been a more important time for the kinds of graduates we produce. And so there's a coalescing, Heather, around our purposes, our shared purposes, and how do we bring that forward in a way that's compelling and engaging for our communities and our alums.
Well, I want to thank you for your leadership, Brian, and all of this work. We're really fortunate to have it, both for the College of Saint Benedict and St. John's University, but also for higher education writ large.
Well, thank you, Heather. It's a privilege for both Carol and me to be in this conversation with St. Ben, St. John's, and it's every step we take on this journey of positioning and strengthening the institutions. We're getting so much overwhelming support. I mean, this past year, we had some incredible momentum, as you know, on the philanthropy side of things. Enrollment continues to make progress. But most importantly, the most dominant theme is that Benny's and Johnny's really are proud of their experience in the ways it's transformed them, but then also enabled their families. And ripples. And so being a part of that is just really, it's holy work, and it's pretty special, and we're honored to be a part of it.
So let's kind of get to the heart of why we do what we do. So everything we've talked about really is in service to our most important group of people, our students. So it's a couple months into the school year. They seem to be doing well, from my perspective, but how about from yours?
Yeah, there's just so much fun to be around. You see the excitement, the energy, the hope that they represent, whether they're talking with you about a research project that they're considering, or I had a couple Benny's and Johnny's who were following Dennis McDonough's engagement with St. Ben, St. John's as a scholar in residence, as whether they're competing in the annual fishing contest and around homecoming, all these different ways that they're finding themselves, and they're really engaged in the curricular and the co-curricular. And in that space, you just, you can't help but be inspired by it and see the kind of hope that they bring. And we're talking about first year students, but also right on up the line, students that are, getting job offers, the year before, the summer before their senior year, get into grad school, med school, law school, volunteering, taking a year of volunteer work, just all the studying abroad, all the things that they're doing in this thing we call St. Ben's, St. John's educational experience. It's inspiring.
It absolutely is. So we're on our way to becoming a JED campus. Can you tell us what that is, what that means, and how the initiative is going?
Well, the JED Foundation is committed to mental health and creating sustainable environments for students. And this is a part of our strategic plan initiative. And there's a lot of written and a lot to be known about this epidemic of loneliness and isolation that our students are experiencing. So this is our comprehensive approach for promoting mental health and creating sustainable support and guides from a public health educational point of view. So think of it as a 4-year collaboration between the JED Foundation and key partners from around the campus community. It includes assessment, expert guidance, technical support, and building of policies and programs out of this wide task force. It included, of course, true to higher education. We want to put some evidence on the table. So we had the Healthy Mind Survey, which gives us a baseline of insight into how our students are thinking about their own healthcare, emotional health. And that a survey and that baseline is going to help us set our agenda for health programming and health education. And we have an incredible group of faculty and staff leading this initiative. And it's a program, Heather, that will not only transform the lives and the experience of students, which is what it's focused on, but it'll also, I think, give us lots of insight on how we can offer support for faculty and staff. And, you know, I kind of describe my essential responsibilities as a president to be at the center of the well-being and education of our students. And this is right at the heart of the matter as we're guiding students in all the various myriad ways to navigate the challenges that they face and to do it in healthy, vibrant fashion. It's a key part of what we're doing. And so I'm just thrilled that it's one of the 13 initiatives in our strategic plan. So we've elevated this in terms of its importance. We already do a phenomenal job in this space, but students are coming to us with more and more needs in this space, and we see great opportunity for helping students in these ways.
And if folks are interested in learning more, the fall 2025 issue of the magazine has quite a bit of information about this. The initiative is led by St. Ben's alumna and professor of psychology, Amanda Janzer. And it also just talks more broadly about our psychology program. You know, you can hear a little bit from one of our counselors who also happens to be an alumna, Alicia Reif. So there's a lot more information there. And I think there's nothing more important, again, to that sort of, to all of that, the flourishing of our students than really their well-being as well. So how is athletics going this fall?
You know, I would just always say former college athlete. I used to be a runner, then I was a jogger, now I'm a proud walker. But nothing has changed about my excitement and enthusiasm that comes from watching our scholar athletes. And I'll probably just pick one sport to highlight, and they're all doing great, but just pick one to highlight. And it's not because, Heather, you're a part of the coaching machine, but our St. Ben's volleyball team is having one heck of a year. I think they're 13-4 or 14-4, and they are clearly an MIAC contender. They're so exciting to watch, and I invite all our viewers and listeners to come watch I know this is old school jargon, but to bump, set, spike their way through the conference. But we're a couple matches away from our next home match. We're going to St. Mary's in Augsburg next, and then we're back home for family night against St. Olaf. So if you want to spend an evening watching some fantastic volleyball and pretty good coaching, come hang out at St. Ben's and take in a little bit of the volleyball. But all the sports are off to a great start. We've had a phenomenal fall of weather, so it feels like we're still kind of in late August, but I know it's turning and cooling off. But it's fun to watch these scholar athletes perform.
Okay, so I'm going to just check in really quickly with Marcia to see if we have any questions from the audience.
Yes, we do have one question. This comes to us from Anna W. Is the nationwide backlash against DEI affecting St. Ben's and St. John's? So many colleges and universities are cutting their DEI-related programs.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that question. And what we've been doing, it's a really good question because it gives people insight into how we're approaching these matters these days. I want to be really clear that we're not moving away from the kinds of long-standing commitments that we've had to this work. One of the defining characteristics of how we're responding and have been for years is leaning into our Catholic Benedictine liberal arts tradition, leaning into what it means to provide an environment for women at St. Ben's and men at St. John's that allows them to experience the world as fully as possible and to become the principled, empowered leaders that we want. We're leaning into our mission traditions. And so I think so often the acronym DEI gets misunderstood. St. Ben, St. John's is committed to equitable practices We're committed to a deep, deep sense of belonging and community. We're committed to what this all means. And we're defining it these days more as it relates to inclusive excellence. And our Catholic Benedictine tradition, this 2,000-year tradition of understanding what it means to pursue an understanding of the common good and the dignity of people, to work for justice and to do so in equitable fashion. So we're not, we're being more explicit about how this work is inherently a part of a Catholic Benedictine liberal arts college for women and university for men. We're really embracing that. So we're not scrubbing our website. We're not eliminating positions. We're not asking people to do things differently. We are asking ourselves to lean more fully into our mission traditions and to use the 2,000-year-old language of the Catholic intellectual tradition, the Catholic social teaching, the Benedictine values and practices. And so we're navigating. We're also making sure that we're compliant with all laws, state and federal, and it can be complicated. But for us, I think what we're trying to do is to find the opportunity here. But no, we're not backing away from this work. It's inherently in our mission, the dignity of people, the sanctity of life, the common good, awareness of God in all things, moderation, community living. These are all things that require us to embrace this work. And that's what a Catholic college or university does. And John Paul II is cited in Ex Corde Ecclesiae as inviting us all to dialogue at the intersection of faith and reason. And this is what we're doing. And so while there's all sorts of narrative out there about illegal practices or these are things that are foreign to us, we're working in our mission traditions and we're making sure that our scholarships are not violating any law, that the way our practices and policies are built could stand up to any scrutiny that might come our way. We're doing it confidently, and we're doing it with a proud commitment to our mission tradition.
And with consistency with the way our practices have been too. We've always looked from an enrollment perspective at the whole person. Yeah. And we continue to support all of our students from a pastoral perspective too. So we continue to do that.
One of the things that I'd add, Heather, is that much of what we're seeing in the headlines is targeted toward elite universities. So, for example, we've never had race-based admissions.
No.
And so we have managed our debt and affordability issues quite well. All these things that are spurring conversation at the national level are things that we've been managing and navigating for years. And so it's a position of strength spot to be. There are things that do challenge us around grants and making sure that compliance with enforcement, but the laws haven't changed. It's the interpretation and enforcement of this current administration that's changed.
So, we've talked a lot about our students. Why don't you share a little bit, maybe one or two stories, depending on how quickly you can tell the story, the sort of most inspiring stories or an inspiring story you've heard from a student this last semester.
Yeah, I think the stories that I find most inspiring of Bennies and Johnnies are when you're sitting there and you're just meeting them for the first time and you're just asking, how and why did you choose St. Ben's? How and why did you choose St. John's? And you're really trying to get a sense of what does this education mean for this student? And the stories that I'm inspired by are when students tell me that they're the first in their family to go to college, that they couldn't have afforded this without the merit scholarship that they received or the need-based scholarship that they received, and that they're actually here not for their own education, but they're here to unleash the entire family from maybe it's a cycle of poverty. Who knows what the rest of that story is? But our students are here committed to their education and what students are bringing to the table, the experiences, 200, 300, 400 hours of volunteer experience. They have really sophisticated ideas of what's possible. And so I'm inspired by their dreams and their hopes and their commitment. I will have to say that it's been a long time since I was a college student, but I don't remember being as focused as our students are until I was, maybe first semester senior year. And I worked hard at it, but I can't believe the level of hard work and the resilience that our students share with us, doing things that they a year or two ago never knew it was possible. So as I bump along and meet the various Bennies and Johnnies, it's just incredible to me the stories that they're bringing and the aspirations that they're holding going forward.
Well, as always, Brian, we do like to end all of these with a call to action for our audience. So for all of our alums, parents, and friends watching and listening today, what would you have them do for St. Ben's and St. John's?
Well, Heather, first of all, thanks for inviting me into this conversation. I think it's important that when we're facing the polarization and kind of disruption that we are, that I find it amazing that St. Ben, St. John's continues to find its way to build momentum and flourish. And so it's also no surprise to me. These places are rooted in our missions and passionate about our future, about producing principled, empowered graduates. And so, and it's true, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the world has never needed our graduates more than right now. It's just simply inspiring. So what I'd say to our alums and our community members, in some ways, it's pretty simple. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep supporting us. Get ready to ramp up your level of engagement. The True North journey is coming. Keep telling your St. Ben, St. John story. Help us recruit students. Offer internships. Hire our graduates. Be a mentor, and come home. Visit often. Help us keep setting records. Help us increase our engagement and to make sure St. Ben's and its students in particular continue to flourish. So I say thank you for all you're already doing, and thank you for joining us as we continue to build this vibrant future for St. Ben's and St. John's.
And as our new Dean of Admission, Dr. Aaron Pearson, has said to me before, don't take our word for it. Come see for yourself. We'd love to have you on campus. We'd love to have the prospective Bennies and Johnnies in your life on campus. You can find us online. Come on up. We'd love to have you visit anytime. So I think with that, we probably, if we don't have any other questions from the audience, Amy, I'll just check in really quickly.
We do not have any additional questions.
All right. So with that, I want to thank you, Brian, for all of this time that you've shared with us today. I want to take just a moment of personal privilege just to mention Boz Bostrom, who we lost this last week. And I think the reminder that I would sort of ask all of us to do is to be a little bit more like Boz. Just be really present for the people in your life. Show up. Cheer them on. I mean, there was never a volleyball game or a football game or a softball game or a whatever game where you wouldn't look up and potentially see him there in his accounting sweatshirt or t-shirt. But I think what it is that idea of just showing up, right? The advantage, that the opportunity, the connections that you can make when you're fully present with others, I think matters a great deal. And I think it is a perfect example of these communities. So show up for folks in your life, cheer them on, celebrate loudly, let your light shine so brightly that everyone sees that, not for our own glory, right? But really for the fact that we can sort of see what that light goodness, the world needs that kind of light. They need Bennies, they need Johnnies out being bright lights. So I encourage you all to do that. And we thank you for all of that. So thank you, Brian, for all you do to support St. Ben's, St. John's, the faculty and staff, and each and every student. We really do appreciate you, Brian.
Thank you, Heather. Well said about Boz, and thank you for bringing that forward today.
So audience, thank you for spending some time with us. We are delighted that you took an hour out of your day to be present, to show up, and to spend some time here at home with St. Ben's.
Thank you again, Brian and Heather, for your time today. Audience, you can share additional questions or comments on today's episode through the evaluation form that will be emailed to you from the Alumni Relations Office. This concludes today's episode of St. Ben's at Home. Please check out all of our past episodes of St. Ben's at Home on our website. We'll be back with our next episode very soon. And we will also share this link in the evaluation email that you will receive in the next couple days. Thank you for attending. Have a great rest of your day.